Are we rolling? Looks like it. Egg. Stop. Bye, babies. Bye, babies. I'll be back later. All right. I'm going to go ahead and discard these tea bags into the garbage can. And this is definitely a different kind of clip. Get into all that here in a minute. Mail's good. I'm actually about to drive to Lilburn right now to my parents' neighborhood to sign my will. So they were pretty insistent about me putting into place before I leave for the trail, which I think is a bit dramatic, but you know, whatever. This will be their Christmas present this year or something like that. So I'm driving my truck, which is a first for this series. I'm not 100% sure it'll start. It's been a while since I've driven it, so here we go. Let's figure it out. The motherfucker just ran into me. Yeah, we're good. Good to go. All right. Put my tea in here real quick. Jump in. Ugh. Why does this feel like this is moved? All right. We still good? Get out of here. Yeah, we're good. All right. Driving to Lilburn to go sign a will. Today's going to be an expensive day, it seems. Not only am I going to have to sign this will, which is about $250, but I'm also planning on getting my travel insurance today, which is another several $100s. Neither one of these things really necessarily seem like they're going to be necessary. It's just precautionary, and precautions cost money. They ain't cheap. Take a sip of this tea. Check the microphone placement, make sure it's not. Okay, cool. So yeah, it is 10:30, March 21st, 9 days until I leave. In fact, I haven't been in this truck since the time change, so let me go ahead and try to make these clocks. Oh, fuck. Alright, well, that didn't work. Just a minute. Wow. I guess this will work. What time is it? 10:31. Come on, keep going. I'm trying to switch up my clock here in the truck. I hate having clocks telling the wrong time. Time is pretty important to me. Come on. And I don't want to have a bunch of clocks telling me disparate numbers. Alright, that's at 10:31. So, just a moment while I switch out this other one. As always, compelling content. You know where to get it. No, that's not right. Tuner, USB. No one's behind me, I hope. Come on, clock. Cooperate. Come on, this is awkward. I'm gonna stop at a stop sign trying to do this. Function, audio, display, tuning, BT, remote app, system, clock. Clock adjust. 10:31 a.m. Yeah, we're good? No tuner. I don't want to hear the radio. No. Turn this off. Oh, Jesus. Just go to standby. Come on. I do want to see the clock, though. Come on. Jesus. This is ridiculous. All right. Wow. All right. We're on the road. I didn't even turn signal on for that. That's a no-no. Certainly a rarity to be driving at all, and let alone in this truck. This thing is like, I use this thing so rarely that I really don't even consider it most of the time as a thing that I actually outright own. I've had it for like a year and a half or so. It's never given me any issues. Really bought it for Erica after her Volkswagen Jetta pooped out, which that was a really sad situation. Erica bought this Jetta for like $4,000, and it was a super nice car. We bought it from a really nice couple who were moving to New York and trying to get rid of their vehicles since they didn't think they would need them. And Erica, I think she only drove it for a few months before we really don't know what happened, but all of a sudden the engine overheated, and it was basically totaled at that point. We took it to a Volkswagen dealership, or not a dealership, but a Volkswagen mechanic out in Decatur, and because of the situation, they basically said that they would have to repair the cooling system first in order to even determine if the engine had suffered any kind of damage. So it was going to be like $1,300 just to test to see if the car would still be usable. So when that car died, I guess, what did we do? I think we still had my Ford Taurus at the time. Let me take a sip of this tea. Make sure we're still recording. Cool. I used to have a Ford Taurus that Erica and I actually drove around a considerable amount. We were able to take it all the way to Orlando, Florida one year and back, and then we also drove it to Indiana and back, which that was pretty impressive for how old this Taurus was. This thing was like I think a 94 or something. It looked old. It was just an old car, and at a certain point the transmission started to go. Between the two of us, we actually have had a lot of cars over the time that we've been together, and pretty much all of them have bit the dust eventually. Now we have this truck, which still does the job of a truck, which is nice, and Erica has a Kia Soul from her parents that she purchased, her mom's old car when her mom upgraded or whatever it was. And so we're both doing well in terms of cars now. This truck has like 212,000 miles. Got a roadblock up ahead. It's a little confusing. Go slow for these dudes. Wow, that was confusing. Sent us into oncoming traffic. My truck has 213,240 miles on it. And this is a Toyota Tacoma 2000. So it's pre-9/11, which is important to consider. And it's going strong. It was a service truck. I think some company took pretty good care of it and took it in for pretty routine service checkups and things like that. It's rear wheel drive, and it's done great. I mean, I think I probably drive it like, I don't even know, maybe 50 miles every few months. In the past, I only used it to go get groceries, but now that I've been training for the Appalachian Trail since November, I don't think I've taken it once to the grocery store for that purpose. I've driven it to Lilburn a few times so that I could go help my parents with various things, usually to repair like iPhones, things like that. Oops, I think I'm gonna block this box. Not trying to block the box, y'all. It's an accident. This tea is good. I'm drinking a custom mix of green and mint tea. So it's refreshingly caffeinated. Is the way I kind of think about it. And I'd like to make this clip I'd like to make it last all the way to Porter Steel, which I think might be, if I am successful in talking for that long, it'll probably be the longest clip I've ever had. So that's my endeavor. Fingers crossed that I am able to achieve it. I'm meeting to sign the will at noon, and it's obviously 10:30. So I hope to avoid all traffic by going and doing this right now. Talked to my parents earlier today. Since this was sort of an unexpected trip to their house, I wanted to make sure that if there was anything I could do, like to bring with me or to take back, I wanted to do that while I was out. This is basically a waste of a trip otherwise. I mean, it's such a small task to go sign a will. I could probably maybe submit like an electronic signature or something. Not really sure. The whole thing is off-putting, to be honest. I mean, I don't really want to sign a will just because it just, well, if it was free, I would do it with no protestation whatsoever. But the fact that it's $250 just to say that my parents can have all my stuff if I die, it's just like, well, where else would it go? I mean, like, are they not, isn't it like the most, I mean, I that's a naive thing to say, because obviously I don't know how the legal system works and how these kind of matters are dealt with. My parents both have, they've actually both lost both of their parents at this point. So this is actually something that they've gone through pretty recently. My mom lost her mom 2 years ago. And funny enough, if it is funny, it was on my birthday, December 15th, I want to say 2017, I believe that's correct. December 15th, which is my birthday, is also the day that my grandmother passed away. So, talk about, like, a complex birthday present. That was weird. I was on my way to Athens at the time on the bike with a group of friends. We were doing this, like, what had started to become a yearly thing, where we would go to Athens around, like, early winter time. I think at this point, obviously I know exactly what day we would go. It was December 15th, and so it was starting to get cold in Georgia, and I do remember this time very vividly because we had a new guy coming with us named Chris, and Chris is a great guy, but at this point he had just started biking, and so he was also smoking cigarettes along the way, and so there was actually a lot of catch-up that we played with him. So we would, go a certain distance and we'd lose sight of him, so we'd have to stop. And I definitely don't think that this caused me to get sick, but I think it might have accelerated and or exacerbated me feeling bad, because I did end up getting sick that night. And I think I also, for this trip, that was the day that I broke my fork. I had a surly steel fork on my carbon fiber Fuji. And somehow, although it was less than a year old, one of the fork arms or legs ended up breaking off. It was pretty crazy. It happened at a perfect time. It happened right when we got to our Airbnb, and would have potentially been a fatal disaster if it had happened almost anywhere else. And so that was couldn't have been better. And we were able to even get to a couple of bike shops and find a few alternate forks for me so that I could bike home. But yeah, that was hard. That was a weird trip, my grandmother passing away, and all that just to say, Jesus, man, people driving, people be driving, that's for sure. So my parents have gone through all this recently, having to sort through someone's estate and how to deal with all of their debt, their assets, their items, their belongings, how they divvy all these things out amongst the siblings, and whatever else. I mean, I think Salvation Army has played a big part of this as well. I still have my grandfather, my dad's dad, I still have his wallet that I've been using since he passed away, which was back in high school. It's a pretty good quality wallet, and I've only recently put it aside because I started to use a paperclip. It's not a paperclip, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like one of those paper clips that isn't just a pure, curly Q metal thing. It's one of the paper clips that has two metal springy handle things and then a black, clasp that you open up and put the things through, like the paper. I don't know if that's really painting a picture or not, and I don't know what the name of this thing is. I want to call it a 3-ring binder clip, but I don't think that's a real thing either. Let's sip of this tea. I'm on DeKalb Avenue now. Most of the way there, in fact. I mean, not really, but I basically stay on this the whole entire time. Make sure we're still good with the recording. Looks 420, yep, good. So my parents want me to sign this will so that they don't have to go through all the hardship of divvying out my 2 assets in the event that I die on the Appalachian Trail, which is pretty unlikely, but it's not a 0 chance possibility. I mean, nothing really is. So fair enough, I'll indulge them in that. and I'm basically using what is the equivalent of the entire state return that I got from my taxes to pay for this. And then again, like I said, I'm also buying health or travel insurance today, so it's going to be an expensive day. I didn't really wake up thinking that I'd end up spending $800-ish by the end of today, but here we are. It's a necessary evil. And one of the last couple of things that I have to do in order to square all my things away so that I can leave for the trail and feel no stress about anything I left behind. On that note, Erica and I had a conversation last night, which really just kind of devolved into me talking at her. You know, I like to think that I'm a good conversationalist and a good listener, but I think when I get in these moods where I feel sort of like, I want to say professorial, that's not really the general feeling of the conversations, but when I start to get into things that are like more, I want to say heady and abstract, but I don't know. There's a certain point in our conversations typically where Erica kind of clams up and then I'm just talking like into a vacuum kind of, and I have to kind of force her to like confirm that she's listening to what I'm saying and to ask her explicitly for replies and stuff like that. I mean, I hate when I do it to her, but at the same time I can't help myself. I also don't know in terms of like where the line is on, specifically for the conversation last night. I don't know if I was acting out my own worries and insecurities and then projecting them onto her, or if I really do, consider her, or if I was very genuinely curious about how she felt about all the upcoming things that were going to change between the two of us. I mean, probably a little column A, a little column B, because, I don't want to be out there walking on the trail and be like, oh man, is Erica okay? Obviously that thought will still go through my head, but the more times I can hear her, reaffirm the fact that she'll be okay, and that she's thought about all the things that, are going to be different, and that she feels comfortable with taking care of the house and with the dogs and everything like that. That was sort of the general, overarching theme of the conversation. But then we also went into, what does she want to do? She doesn't want to live in Georgia because it's just, in her words, it's just boring. It's boring to live here. And I don't really blame her. As someone who, is an Asian woman, living in the South is not necessarily, there's nothing super familiar. I don't really know what it feels like to be othered. I guess I do when I lived in Japan. I was obviously, it was actually pretty much the opposite of what Erica feels. Asian people everywhere, and then I'm the only white person. But having lived in America my whole life, the United States, I don't know, it wasn't, I didn't mind being the odd man out, because I guess I'd had 23 years of being the majority, so why not experience what it's like for a little while to be the minority? And they celebrate foreigners in Japan, so it wasn't really the same situation. But in any case, Erica, I think, would do well to live in New York City or California, somewhere that has more of a dense population, that's more progressive and socially liberal and more diverse. Japan and I think California both for sure have thriving Asian communities, whether it's Japantown, Koreatown, or Chinatown. We went to a lot of the, I don't even know if we went to a lot, but we went to several different Asian marketplaces when we were in New York, and Erica loved all that, and it was fun to be there. It was definitely different, it felt like being in a different country, and you were just at a different block of the city. It was really cool. The smells were different, the language was different, everything was organized differently. You can just tell in New York that, immigrants, they have a really strong history of making an impact on that city and what it meant to be American, way more so than the South. The South just seems like it's always been white, it's always been backwards, it's always been agricultural, it's always been lazy, it's always been to varying degrees unhealthy. There's just not, there's an intense lack of inspiration here. And of course you can find little pockets of sunshine on any cloudy day, But generally speaking, I mean, for Erica in particular, I just feel like this place isn't healthy, isn't a healthy, like, I don't know, location for her with what she'd like out of life. And I have this metaphor that I always return to because I just feel like it's apt for almost any situation that is, like, subjectively ambivalent. So, like, again, there's nothing really wrong with the South per se, because, you know, you can rise above any kind of issue if you have the gumption to do so. But all that to say, you know, most situations in life will sort of appear to the person who is evaluating them, in my estimation, as either a launching pad or a burial plot. And the reason I like this metaphor so much is that a launching pad and a burial plot ostensibly both appear to have the same, like, structure. Like, you know, it's just a flat piece of ground, and it's open to interpretation how this piece of ground will be developed. Like, will it be the place where you bury yourself and die? Or will it be the place where you, like, ascend into the sky and, you know, go for whatever your dreams or goals are? So that got brought up again last night because, you know, I told her, you know, I don't want to push her to do anything, and I'm not trying to make her drink the water if she is the proverbial horse, but as her partner for this many years, who is about to leave to do something that is quite unconventional and like very, very much so upsetting to our way of life up to this point, I do feel like in a certain degree, in a certain light, it's sort of my duty to, like, give her a little nudge and just say, hey, like, you know, I'm going to do this. It's not easy to put this whole thing into play. I'm obviously sacrificing a lot in terms of our relationship, in terms of my relationship with many, many people, and my job, my insurance, you know, potentially my health, my life, who knows. And I feel like, you know, I feel like, you know, encouraging her to say, hey, what is your Appalachian Trail? Like, you don't have to have one for sure, but as I look at you, you appear to be less happy than you could be. And if you can identify something that would potentially raise that quotient to where you're happier than you are not, then I want to help you to whatever degree, even if it's just a word or anything that it might be. I want to help you go a little bit further or a little bit closer to whatever that goal might be or whatever your desire might be. So we talked about that for a while last night, and she went to bed really late. She has to wake up really early. Like, she wakes up around 6:15 or so, and she wasn't able to fall asleep until after midnight. And I feel bad about that because I hope it wasn't me, like, upsetting her and then her not being able to fall asleep that kept her up so late. She did come home yesterday with a Starbucks drink, so there's a chance that she drank caffeine later than she should have, but she's pretty good about that, so I think it may not have been like a coffee in that drink. And that drink might have even been from earlier in the day. I have no idea. Who knows? It was actually just a cup, so maybe she didn't drink anything at all. Although it did have a straw in it, so that would be weird if she got a cup and a disposable straw, but no drink to put in it. About to get onto Church Street now. In other news, one of my friends, James, who I've mentioned before, Brechtel. It's time for the Brechtel exam, Mr. James. He is currently sick, and I saw him the other day. Before his sickness took its full-fledged form. Shit, I should have gone. Fuck. Now everyone's going to be mad at me, and I'm in the middle of the crosswalk. This is a bad situation. Oh well, I guess no one's mad. That's good. Anyway, I'm not an aggressive driver at all. I don't really tend to go through yellow lights, just unless I'm already moving, and I wasn't moving. Anyway, so I saw James the other day, and he was quite sick. His voice was really, had really deepened a lot, and I guess that's maybe from coughing or inflammation or something. And so now I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to end up getting sick, and I think I mentioned this the other day, maybe even just yesterday, probably yesterday, or 2 days ago, and, you know, I'm prone to hypochondria a little bit, obviously. I've talked about that before. my appendix fears and heart palpitations, things like that. The mind is a powerful thing, obviously. And so I'm worried that I'm going to end up getting sick here before I head out for the trail. The sooner the better. If that's going to happen, I'd rather get it over with. And so I don't actually feel sick, other than the fear of feeling sick, which is like, oh, I sneezed. Am I about to get sick? I coughed. Am I about to get sick? I have like a weird sinus pain in my jaw. Am I about to get sick? All these little considerations, and I can't do anything at this point. The die is cast, and so like all I can do now is react to whatever ends up happening. I felt fine yesterday. I did get sunburned pretty well all over my exposed parts of skin. So my face feels hotter than normal. So again, that's like, oh, is that a fever, or is that the beginnings of a fever? Because I don't feel feverish. I mean, I'm mentally very clear. I mean, this whole conversation with myself right now is going off without a hitch. Like, this is probably one of the easiest I've ever been able to talk. But there's also that partial delirium and inhibition that comes with being sick. Like, I've definitely been sick and felt like this weird state of ecstasy where, like, I don't know, just feel completely free and open and vulnerable, and I don't know. It could be that, but I don't really feel sick. And yesterday, walking for 24 miles, I felt fine. I stopped at Park Grounds yesterday, which is a cafe in Kirkwood, where dogs get to play and stuff, so you can have a cup of coffee and watch the dogs play. And interestingly, by the time I got there, I was definitely feeling the miles. I wasn't like eating slower per se, but I was definitely feeling like I needed a break. I hadn't taken a break at all, and this was I think I got to Kirkwood at mile 20, and I hadn't stopped for any more than the duration of time it took for me to get through a traffic light. So I probably had the equivalent of like maybe 5 minutes of break during this whole walk before I got to Park Grounds. But I had a cup of coffee and a banana and some water, and I felt great after that. I was walking super fast. I probably stopped for 20 minutes, looked at the dogs playing. One dog was eating another dog's poop, which was disgusting, because then that dog came over to me. I wanted nothing to do with that. But in any case, yeah, I still had a few errands to run before I headed home at that point. So actually, I even walked extra distance to get to this, to buy some kimchi. I bought some radish kimchi, which is definitely not as good as Napa cabbage. And then I went to the grocery store after that, because I had told Erica that I would get her some salad before the end of the day. And I also made dinner, which was really, really good. Made some beef with broccoli and rice. It was super delicious, and the kimchi really sent it over the edge in a good way. And so I'm hoping that all these probiotics help with any kind of sickness that might be developing. I know there's a huge portion of your immune system that is contained within the gut, so hopefully me inundating it with various types of probiotics helps whatever might be happening. But again, I can't do anything about it, which is, I guess, why I tend toward contemplation and evaluation in the meantime, because I'm basically on a ride, right? Or I'm in line for a ride right now, or I guess I should say I'm in line right now, and I don't know what it's for. It might be for continued health, it might be for sickness, and I won't know until time keeps pressing on. So I just have to wait and see, which I hate, because that's the fertile birthplace for anxiety, you know, when you have to wait and see and something's out of your control. It's definitely not my style, but I'm subject to it just like anybody else. It's not preferable, that's for sure. And so today, I guess I'll go for a walk with Charlie. Didn't go for a walk with him yesterday because I knew he wouldn't be able to hang as fast as I wanted to go yesterday, and the time in which I wanted to go it. I knew that having Charlie would be a huge liability, and I'm really glad I didn't take him, because I think my average speed yesterday was like 3.6 or 3.7 miles an hour overall. For 24 miles, that's not bad. And I looked at the splits the whole time, and it basically stayed somewhere between like a 15 and 20 minute mile, which is pretty good. No complaints there. Feeling strong, feeling good. I'm wearing my really, really old Salomon shoes still, which are just now starting to get a hole in the middle of them. So, I think the next time it rains, these shoes will be completely useless because my socks will get wet almost instantly when I touch the wet ground. And historically, that's been the indication that it's time to move on to a new pair of shoes, which I have ready to go. I just don't wear them yet because I don't want to wear them down too much before I actually get out on the trail. And I feel like the material out here on the road is just going to tear up the grip of the shoe prematurely. Let me finish this tea. It's about to get on 78, so this is about to get a whole lot noisier. 10:58, I'm really early. I might need to go by my mom's house to kill some time. Getting on the highway, everybody look out. I am in the left lane, and I might be sick. So, yeah, hoping to get home as soon as possible today. Take Charlie for a walk, wear my backpack, basically just ignore the possibility of getting sick. I'd like to go for a 10-mile walk today. That would be my goal with the backpack on. I'll have to think of a suitable route in order to achieve that and have Charlie with me. I definitely don't want to be on the Beltline. I've been on that way too much. So my first thought is to basically walk toward Ponce City Market, because that I can definitely transform that route into being 10 miles round trip. It's approximately 3.5 to 4 miles, depending on route and everything, to Ponce City Market itself, and then I can extend that a little bit, go somewhere over there, maybe walk back home through East Atlanta Village. I'm not sure, something like that. I'm doing this clip right now, so I don't have to worry about recording while I walk. So that kind of frees up where the route can start. I think we'll probably just go straight up Boulevard, and then through Cabbagetown, parallel the Beltline, staying off of it as much as possible to avoid millions of people. Again, I don't really like the attention I get from wearing that backpack, or at least the possibility of the attention that I might receive. So if I can avoid that as much as possible, I would prefer it. Is there a car crash over here? Weird. So yeah, I'll listen to podcasts, listen to music, just try to work up an appetite, come home. The beef I made last night was delicious. There's something about beef. It's just so tasty. It's expensive, obviously, but I was able to find some pretty cheap stuff yesterday that was like organic and stuff. But maybe I'll end up getting another package of that. It was really, really good. I feel like I'm floundering a little bit. What can I talk about? What's going on for the rest of the week? Let's see. Friday, today's Thursday, right? Yeah. So tomorrow I'll be meeting with Reed for coffee around noon. And he's the guy who I was going to bike cross country with until I had a change of heart. And I'm really curious to hear about what his route's going to be like, because I know last time I met with him to tell him that I was no longer going to bike cross country, he had a route in mind, but he wasn't able to pull it up. And so I'm curious to see it, because I think we would have probably come to odds. We would have definitely had some disagreements about like what we wanted to do in terms of route and planning and stuff, because I think he definitely prefers to take off-road routes, which I don't mind either to a degree, but he, I think, wants to kind of structure this whole ride so that it's as off-road as possible. I think what he's planning on doing is taking the Race Across America route from Virginia to Astoria, Washington, and then maybe going down the east or the west coast to California via Highway 1, And then I'm not sure if he was planning on doing the Continental Divide after that, or if he was thinking he might do the Divide like on his way out west. So I suppose I'll be pretty interested to hear about what that has been updated to be, because at this point, I mean, late March, I think he's thinking about leaving in May, which would be, a little less than 2 months from now. So yeah, I have no idea what he's planning on doing, but it's pretty different than my original idea, which would have been basically, I don't know, a Spartan type of effort, going from Atlanta to Virginia, from Virginia to Washington to LA back to Atlanta. So 10,000 miles in like 100 days, pretty much doing a century a day. It sounds terrible now. And when I was doing the planning and the idea of it earlier in the summer, I know I was definitely still in the throes of my bicycle addiction. So, it was doable in my head, and I was just like, it couldn't be any worse than anything I'm doing now, and I feel pretty strong and capable right now. But thankfully I didn't have the chance to actually put that plan into action, because I don't know what would have happened. And I'm glad that I found an alternate, and I think this Appalachian Trail thing is gonna work out. So Saturday and Sunday, no specific plans. Hope to see John Hawk sometime before I leave. I haven't seen that guy for a while. He and I are kind of playing tag back and forth with our availability. But now that I don't have a job, hopefully I'll be able to see him at some point. Definitely want to see him before I leave, and definitely want to see him before I either succumb to the sickness or continue with being healthy. Monday, no specific plans, but Noah did get back to me actually. And so I think I'll reach out to Noah again on Monday and see what his availability is for Tuesday, and then walk to his house on Tuesday, which is about 6 or 7 miles away. So like a 14-mile round trip, which will be super nice and super easy. I knew that he was living further outside of the general area, and I had a feeling that yesterday when I was walking out to my coworker's house, which was outside of the perimeter due east, that I was probably close to Noah's house. And in a way I was. So I'll hopefully do that on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, supposed to be having another family dinner with Lowe coming by to grace us with their presence. And what else? Thursday, no plans. I still need to go to try to see Lindsay before I go. So maybe one of these days I'll get in with her. Friday I'll probably be like running around with a chicken and its head cut off, like a chicken with its head cut off, just making sure I have everything ready. And then Saturday I hope that we leave pretty early. I'd like to leave around 7:30 and drive up to Amicalola with Erica. I'll drive for sure, and I'll try to print out some directions, I think, for her so she can get back, because the last time Ben and I went up there was there was a large section of time where we didn't have any cell phone service, and I wouldn't want her to be stressing out while she's tired on a Saturday morning because she doesn't know where she's going. So I actually probably need to make a note of that, because I haven't done it yet and I don't want to forget all these little things, these little loose ends. That's why I love being a note maker, a note taker. I never forget anything now. I remember, everything seemed to change for me when I started puberty. I think when puberty hit, that's where all of my real idiosyncrasies came out. I think whatever genes were dormant that all of a sudden started to be expressed, along with like my emerging, I guess, sexual awareness, those seem to be paired with my obsessive compulsive tendencies. And I don't really like using that term because I don't really feel like I have an illness or an affliction, but for expediency and understanding, I guess I use it just because if I say those words, I think people have a general idea of what I'm talking about, whereas if I try to describe the specifics of whatever I do, I think people would get lost in the weeds, especially if they don't have any kind of similar habits or routines. It's kind of an alien thing, but I'm not one of those people who washes their hands all the time. I like things to be organized, and I like control, and I have oh shit, gotta go. It's a very productive personality trait, shall we say. I don't lose things, I don't forget things as long as I write them down. And if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So, to the best of my ability. Again, the Appalachian Trail, who knows? I might die, which is why I'm going to sign this will. So early, 11:07. Turning on to Old Stone Mountain Road. I'm off the highway, heading toward my mom's house. She might even be gone by the time I get there. She has a hair appointment at 12. It's funny that, she's, I wouldn't say desperately looking for a job, but she's furtively looking for employment that suits her desires and needs. But even while she is doing all that, she doesn't skimp on the details of her beautification, which, there's no need to if you can afford it. But to me, I think if I didn't have a job, I would be a little wary of getting my hair done. It just seems like a luxury, but it's also probably just a difference between the two of us. I mean, to be fair, there's an argument that a haircut is important, especially while you're looking for a job, because you don't want to appear to be careless or disheveled or anything like that. Not that I've ever seen my mom in that state ever, but it's certainly a reasonable expense, making sure that your appearance is taken care of and well manicured. Is it something that has to be done by another person? Probably not. I've been cutting my own hair to varying degrees of success since I was in high school. Never really had any issues with that, but then again, I've also never gotten any awards for looking particularly attractive, so maybe there's some through lines there. On that note, another interesting thing about my appearance, especially in the face region, I have a fake tooth. When I was a younger kid, I was playing on a neighbor's treadmill, and this was an old treadmill, and it kind of hurts my tooth just to even remember this. But basically, the treadmill didn't have any kind of safety precaution on it. Basically, you could turn it to full speed, which was just by turning a knob, while the machine was actually turned off, and then you could turn it on, and it would instantly rev up to full speed. And I don't know if I was doing this kind of like how a kid touches a hot stove or something, because I remember setting it to the setting for full blast, and visually seeing it and understanding the cause and effect that was going on here. If you turn it all the way up and then turn on the power, it will instantly kick. It'll kick back and you'll fly off. I think we were making things fling off of the treadmill. In any case, geez, this is terrible. I turned it on while it was on full blast and instantly lost my feet. They just flew behind me, and my face smashed into the belt that was driving the actual treadmill, and I broke my front tooth, and I bit through my lip, and I was just like a mass of blood, just like the people in Jesus Christ Superstar. See my hands, I'm a mass of blood. That kind of thing. And I had to go to the doctor, and I had to have a new tooth put on. It was terrible, and so it was traumatic too. One of those little things that my family still references as something that is, specific to me. It's sort of an inside joke, about treadmills and broken teeth and all that stuff. But anyway, where my tooth was joined with the, the cap that's on it, through all my years of tea and coffee drinking, the area where the bond occurred is stained like a brownish color. There's a line going across my tooth where it's broken. And at a certain point in my life, I kind of thought it would be nice. I think this is when Erica and I first started dating. If that cap just fell off, and I wasn't sure how bad I would look. I think that would look pretty bad, actually, now that I look at myself in the mirror, because the line is pretty high up. So it wouldn't be very attractive to have that much of my tooth missing. But at one point early in my relationship with Erica, when we were both still students, she fell off her bike going to school one day. I don't really know how. I don't really remember where. I know she was on campus. But she fell off her bike and basically broke her fall with her face, and a bit of her front tooth chipped off in the process of that. And it wasn't a lot, but it was maybe close to 15 or 20% of the tooth. And I just thought it would be cute if at some point my cap fell off and we both had fucked up front teeth. Just it's like sort of an endearing, like, I don't know, friendship bracelet kind of thing, where we both somehow through fate have come together and we both have messed up teeth from various athletic endeavors. That never happened to this point anyway. There's still time. But Erica never got her tooth fixed, so it's still just as broken today as it was then. And I think that's just because she didn't want to have to go through the whole surgical thing or whatever it was going to be. And I certainly don't blame her, because that wasn't super fun. But then again, when I did mine, I was a child and I didn't like needles, and I don't know. I mean, I had, I think, the most traumatic medical things that I've ever had happen to me were the tooth with the treadmill. I had my tonsils taken out, which was pretty traumatic and memorable. I had, I busted my head open once jumping into a pool, like the back part of my head. I did a front flip, but I didn't jump out far enough, so like I hit my head on the ledge or something. Yeah, that hurts to remember too. And really, the only painful thing about that was when I was getting stitches. From what I remember, I had gotten a shot in my head to numb it, and the thing that hurt was that the doctor kept pulling my hair instead of pulling the stitch, and so I just kept getting like single hairs pulled, which hurt. But I wasn't happy about that. So tonsils, tooth, busted head, that's pretty much it. The only thing that comes to mind beyond that is that I had an allergy test when I first moved, I think when we first came to Georgia. Maybe I was younger. I don't really recall the date there super well. But just getting over into this lane. Oh yeah, that was painful. I got like 50 shots at one time, because they have to like prick your back with like a little bit of an allergen to see what sort of reaction you have with it. So like there was like this huge, like, what the fuck are you doing? All right, man, fucking dumbass. This guy has his turn signal on. It's going straight. Anyway, yeah, so that hurt. Or I think I probably exaggerated it. I don't remember. I don't know if they were actually needles, but in any case, it sucked. Like, they were all numbered, all these little needles, and so they would poke my back with them, and then they'd ask them, like, which one hurt or itched, and I was like, all of them. They all hurt. They all itched. This is terrible. You just gave me like 50 shots. I'm like 8 years old. A shot is the worst thing that can possibly happen to me, and you just gave me more shots than I'd ever imagined would ever be necessary for anything. So I'm freaking out right now. Everything hurts. Everything sucks. Fuck you. that was kind of my attitude at the time. But yeah, here we are. I'm turning onto my parents' street. Made it all the way here. So mission accomplished. I was able to actually carry the conversation the whole way, and you didn't even realize it, that I was grasping at straws the whole time. The entire time. I didn't have anything to say. The only thing I thought I would talk about when I first got in the car was the fact that I was scared of getting sick, and a little bit of an update on what I was going to do. And here we are, like, 45 minutes later? What time is it? 49 minutes. What a triumph. This calls for celebration. I'm about to make some tea. I think I'll have some jasmine tea or something. Man, this is funny to be back in my parents' neighborhood. Every time I come here, it's just a little bit weirder than the last time. Oh, it's friggin' Joe Kiwanis. That's my dad's carpenter. That guy is hilarious in a very inappropriate way. And someone is at my mom's house. someone's car. I don't have any idea whose car that is. Alright, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and go. But, yeah, here's to victory. Time for some tea. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll see if I'm sicker than I am now. Alright, let's go ahead and call it 55 minutes, or 50 minutes. Alright, talk to you tomorrow. Bye.